Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Law of Self Defense Show. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca for the Law of Self Defense. Well, if you're an American, the Second Amendment secures your right to keep and bear arms, at least when that right's not being neutered by homegrown fascists. But does it secure a right to be stupid with a gun? Join me to watch a video of an utter absence of common sense when it comes to exercising Second Amendment rights, in this particular case, while lounging by a swimming pool, of all places. And as an added bonus, watch even all the people without a gun at the pool also strive to achieve maximum stupidity. Before we jump into things, I just want to remind everybody today's show is sponsored by CCW Safe, a provider of legal service memberships, what many people mistakenly call self-defense insurance. In effect, CCW Safe promises to pay their members legal expenses if the member is involved in a use of force event, and they do much, much more. I'm personally a member of CCW Safe, so is my wife, Emily, because I trust them to do the right thing. If you'd like to know why I trust CCW Safe, you can point your browser to lawofselfdefense.com/trust. And I have a little video there explaining exactly why they are my choice for this kind of protection. Again, that's lawofselfdefense.com/trust. Also there, you can get a 10% discount code for when you become a member of CCW Safe. Lawofselfdefense.com/trust. So there's nothing wrong with carrying a gun with you at a pool or a beach or anywhere else, assuming doing so is legally permitted, of course. I've often carried a gun myself at all those locations and many, many others. It behooves the person carrying that gun, however, to have at least a minimal level of common sense, something at least above the level of absolute stupidity. It also behooves any onlookers in the area, any bystanders, to apply their own common sense to secure their own safety from a gun handler's potential stupidity. So let's check out this video of a man with a gun at a Houston, Texas pool and observe a veritable perfect storm of stupidity from, I would argue, everybody involved. And by the way, if you stay to the end of today's video, as you certainly should, you can learn how you can get a free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles. Check it out on Amazon, 5-star rated, but don't buy it there. They'll charge you for the book and shipping and handling. We want to give you the book for free. Just stay with us to the end of the show, and you can get your own copy of The Law of Self-Defense. All right, so here's our video here. I've zoomed it in a bit from the original, so we have a better view of what is going on here. Now, I'll note first that I've seen this video in a number of places, but the version I captured here was from my buddies over at Carry Trainer, Self-Defense Trainers, on our Instagram page. If you don't yet know Mickey Shooks, who runs Carry Trainer and his team over there, they provide very top shelf quality self-defense training. I even teach at some of their events. You owe it to yourself to check them out at carrytrainer.com. So the video we're about to watch starts with two men in a bit of a verbal kerfuffle, a bit of a verbal altercation at a Houston, Texas pool. And for purposes of simplicity and for obvious reasons, I'll refer to these two as fat and skinny. Skinny is obviously on the left, wearing the sunglasses, and he's holding what appears to be a light backpack in his hands. Apparently, he's informed Fat that he has a pistol in the backpack, although he's not yet shown a gun. Fat is on the right, wearing the ball cap, obviously, and engaged in some belly-to-belly, mano-a-mano ego fluffing with Skinny. When the video starts, we can initially hear some bystanders stating their belief that Skinny is faking having a gun, right until Skinny does, in fact, present a handgun from the backpack, display it briefly, then shove it back into the backpack. And I added a freeze frame there in the video for purposes of clarity. So with that context, let's go ahead and take a look at this video. It's only about a minute long. Here we go.
He's just faking it. Yeah. He's faking it.
Nope, he's not faking it. There's the gun.
Oh, he does. Oh, he does. Go home!
Hey, that's not worth it. Please, that's way. Not worth it. That don't scare me, bro. I promise you.
He's got a gun. Why do you bring a gun to a pool?
Get out, run that nigga.
Oh no.
Pull a gun on us.
Oh,
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, he gonna blow. Wanna pull a fucking gun? He gonna blow.
I know, I saw it. I really didn't think he had one. Hey. Hold this.
And that's it right there. So we part there with Skinny continuing to take some punches to the face. A woman in a white bikini, presumably inserting herself into the argument in an effort to de-escalate things. I imagine that's what she thinks she's doing. Let me just, because I zoomed in, we kind of miss her, but here's a clip of the last 4 seconds of that fight in the swimming. Here we go.
Hey. Hold this.
And there she is, just helping out. Frankly, folks, in my experience, a pretty good sign that a fight between two men will end with one of those men dying is if a woman inserts herself into the fight. But that's a topic for another show. What's really remarkable about this video is not that Skinny or even Fat were engaged in explicitly stupid conduct, but rather that it's almost impossible to identify anyone in this video, either visually or audibly, who's not engaged in stupidity of an almost staggering level. Let's start with the obvious ones. Let's start with Skinny. Folks, the reason I personally carry only concealed, not open carry, is that I don't want anyone to know I have a gun on my person unless they really, really need to know that I have a gun on my person. For the same reasons, I would never inform somebody that I have a gun in my backpack or wherever. If they need to be aware that I have a gun, it will be because I've been compelled to present that gun. Of course, Skinny here does present the gun, but to what purpose? Perhaps because Fat was daring him to prove he had the gun that he claimed to have? First of all, such mockery would only be possible if Fat had been made aware of the gun in the backpack, which we've already covered is a bad idea. Second, you ought not be presenting a gun in a heated setting unless you have a legally justified reason for doing so. Mockery is not such a legally justified reason. Being threatened with imminent death or serious bodily injury would be the appropriate legal reason for presenting the gun. Third, if the reason you're presenting the gun is for the appropriate legal reason that you genuinely perceive an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, your actual conduct needs to reflect this claimed subjective belief. A person who presents a gun from a bag, shoves it back into the bag, and then continues exchanging belly bumps and mean words with their antagonist doesn't look much like someone who believes that antagonist is about to kill or maim them. And if you had that legitimate reason to pull out a gun and have the opportunity to retreat to a position of safety without having to fire the gun, the smart person does exactly that. They don't simply keep exchanging belly bumps and mean words with their antagonist. That doesn't look much like self-defense to anybody. What it looks like is aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. You're simply attempting to frighten somebody for no particularly good reason. Fourth, if you've made others aware that you have a gun, for Pete's sake, don't position the gun in such a manner, either on your body or off your body, where they can easily strip you of that gun and take it into their own possession, as Skinny did here when he put down the bag within reach of Fat. Now, not only are you disarmed, but your antagonist is now armed with your gun. Now, what about Fat? How stupid was Fat here? Folks, if somebody threatens to shoot you, and particularly if they demonstrate that they have the ready means to carry out that threat, you need to either defend yourself, comply with their demands, which is not relevant here, but might be in a robbery scenario, or if you can, vacate the area to a position of safety. You don't simply keep exchanging belly bumps and mean words with someone who said they're going to kill you and has the means to do so. Only a few days prior to this event, at another Houston, Texas pool in this area, a man had been shot and killed during an argument around the pool. So your death here in this scenario is a real possibility. Also, I advise against telling a gun wielder here, Skinny, that I'm not afraid of your gun, or even worse, I dare you to shoot me. I've seen a lot of people shot and killed because they decided to employ mockery in the face of a muzzle. With some regularity, that mockery results in a loud noise, and that's no fun at all. Remember, what is the mission? Or as Mickey Shooks of Carry Trainer likes to put it, win, W-I-N. What's important now? What's important, I would suggest, is surviving the fight. And if simply vacating the area, even at the risk of looking like you've been punked by some punk with a gun, achieves that mission, well, then you've achieved your mission. It's also worth mentioning the other people around the pool, including but not limited to the people recording this confrontation on their smartphone. Folks, if you're anywhere and people start waving guns around in a hostile way, it's time to either defend yourself, comply with their demands, or, usually most prudent, especially in this context, just immediately vacate the area. Personally, I don't like being around strangers handling guns, even when I'm at a gun range, and nobody is mad at anybody. If there's a confrontation and guns come out, me and my family are gone if safety can be achieved by being gone. I might be willing to risk a gunshot if necessary to protect myself or my family from a lethal aggressor, but I'm not at all willing to risk a gunshot, much less get a family member shot, from some random round fired by yahoos beefing it up at a pool or anywhere else. Finally, I ought to mention the beating that Fat and Friends delivers to Skinny after they've seized his bag and dragged him into the pool. First, we should recognize that this is now a life-threatening attack on Skinny. If two larger and heavier men have you in a pool, it's child's play to simply hold you underwater long enough to solve all your life's problems for you. Fortunately, that doesn't happen here, but it's an option Fat and Friends had that Skinny no longer had any means to contest. If they wanted to just drown him, they would just drown him, and there would be nothing Skinny could do about it. And we should also recognize that once Fat had secured Skinny's gun, Fat really had no legal justification for beating Skinny at all. Sure, arguably, Skinny had just committed felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon on Fat, but that threat surely ended once Skinny was stripped of his gun. Fat could have called the police and pressed felony charges, but the absence of any continuing imminent threat of physical violence from Skinny means that Fat had no legal justification for the use of defensive physical force on Skinny in that pool at the end. Now, don't get me wrong, as Chris Rock jokes about the O.J. Simpson case, I'm not saying it's right, but I understand. While I understand, however, it really is not right, or at least not legally justified. In fact, given the circumstances of the disparity of numbers, the danger of the pool's water being used as a weapon, a deadly weapon. Remember, anything can be a deadly weapon. It just depends on the manner of use. And the reality that Skinny was no longer a substantive imminent threat to Fat and Friends, Skinny might well be able to argue that whatever had happened before, whatever he had done wrong before in presenting that gun, that first fight in which he was the initial unlawful deadly force aggressor when he presented that gun, that first fight had ended. And what was happening now, the beating in the pool, was an unjustified deadly force attack by Fat and Friends on him. What if Skinny had not only a gun in his bag, now taken, of course, but also a knife in his swimsuit? A little folding knife. Had he reasonably perceived he was being subjected to an unlawful threat of death or serious bodily injury, could he have deployed that knife on Fat and Friends and have that use of force have been deemed lawful self-defense? Arguably so. So you can defend yourself against an imminent threat, arguably when Skinny had presented that gun and still had it in his possession. But once the threat has been neutralized and is no longer an imminent threat, once the window of imminence is closed, your privilege to use force in self-defense is also ended. So to wrap up, I'll just once again remind all of you to keep the actual mission in focus, to consider what's important now. I would suggest that what's important now is securing the safety of yourself and others that you have a duty to protect in as egoless and emotionless a manner as you can manage, using the minimum force necessary to do so. In a perfect world, no force at all, and living to enjoy life another day. By the way, if you like this kind of content and you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Rumble or wherever, I would encourage you to hit the like button or the equivalent of the like button to subscribe, or the equivalent of subscribe, whatever social media platform you're watching on. That helps us a lot. All right, folks. So I had mentioned to all of you that if you stay to the end, I have a bonus for you. And that bonus comes in the form of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles. Right here, your handbook to knowing how to be hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, your property. Check it out on Amazon, 5-star rated, bestseller in its category, but don't buy it on Amazon. They'll charge you $25 for the book plus shipping and handling. We only ask you to cover the cost of getting the book to you. The book itself is free from us. And you can grab your copy now at lawofselfdefense.com/free book. All right, folks, with that, I'll wrap things up. I'll just remind all of you that if you carry a gun, whether at the pool or anywhere else, if you carry a gun so you're hard to kill, if you carry a knife, if you carry pepper spray, if you study jujitsu so you're hard to kill, that's why I do all those things. So I'm hard to kill, so my family is hard to kill. Then you also owe it to yourself and your family to make sure you know the law so you're hard to convict as well. Until next time, I remain attorney Andrew Branca for the Law of Self-Defense. Stay safe.